Alright, let's get started one more time. Now we're going to start with 2/8 this time, so let me go ahead and get 2/8 out of the notebook here. Looks like it's going to be percents. I don't think this is going to be a major challenge for a lot of my accelerated math students, but we'll take a look. Alright, fact I even wrote, strictly for review purposes. Remember, if you take notes and show me and do the U-tries, 10 points extra credit, as always. Please pause if you need to at any time to do the work and then get back to me. Looks like we have, a bunch of pages here, so I'll try not to take too long. Alright, first of all, what is a percent exactly? Well, a percent is simply a ratio that compares to the number 100. So if I say 27%, 27%, if you remember, just means 27 over 100. Pretty straightforward. It could also mean 0.27. 0.27 because this is the tens, this is the hundreds, so 27 over 100. To remember to reduce as such. So if I took 25%, 25 over 100, which yes means 0.25, but 25 over 100 could both be divided by 25, as you see here. And 25 divided by 25 is 1, 100 divided by 25 is 4. Alright, so that was entirely page 1. Moving on, let's see, now let's apply this. So you can follow along, let me open this up here. Now, you can follow along on page 127, example 1 if you wish, which is right here. So, right here if you want, and we can follow right along. Here's some things you might want to know as well. But let's go ahead and drop that again, see where we're at. I can go ahead and split the screen, or something like that. We'll get back to it. Okay, anyway, 50% of 20, which is actually right here, if you notice, 50% of 20. So, there we go. Alright. Now the biggest thing to remember about 50% of 20 is first I want to pull the sentence apart. So find 50%. 50% means 50 out of 100. That's the percent part. Equals of 20. Now the word of means total. And total goes in the bottom. Understand that fraction is part over total. So part total, we know the total is 20. We don't know the part. So just put an X in the blank part for now. So I have 50 over 100 equals X over 20. Alright, fair enough. These have to be equal because it says 50% of 20. So in other words, we're looking for half of the 20. Look, I know 50% of 20 is 10. You know it's 10, but it's not important. The answer is not important. The process is. So let's go ahead and now cross multiply like this. So 50 times 20, which is 1,000, divided by 100, which makes 10. As you can see here. So once again, we have the 10 there. Again, it's important to know how to do this, even though we knew the answer probably from the beginning. Let's do one more. Now you can go ahead and pause for a second, give this a try. 75% of 120. So go ahead and pause and try. Alright, hopefully you had a chance to pause. Let's see what we have. 75% is 75 over 100, which you have here. Of 120, 120 goes in the bottom. Criss Cross Applesauce, so you go ahead and times 75 times 120 divided by 100. Looks like I have it here as 90. So 75 over 100 equals 90 over 120, which makes sense because they both equal 3/4. Criss Cross Applesauce. Okay, now you try. Find 100% of 200, so go ahead and pause it this time. Pause it. Okay, hopefully you paused. Let's see what you got. 100% of 200, 105% of 200 is 210. How? 105 over 100, because that's a percent, of 200, x Criss Cross Applesauce, times divide, do 10. Moving on. Oh yeah, you are AT, so why don't you try this? 10,500% of 500. Just follow the formula. You're not sure? Percent means over 100. So 10,500 over 100. 500 over here. Criss Cross Applesauce. I think it's going to be 52,500. And hopefully I'm right. If not, you'll have something to tell me I was wrong on tomorrow. That's fine. Now we have this. What percent of 60 is 15? Now, okay. Lots of things are happening here. Let's break down the sentence. What percent, so something over 100, equals. Now, this is the thing. Now, okay, so what percent means something over 100 of 60 is 15. This actually is the other equation. Now, I know is equals. I know this. We talked about this earlier. But in this case, we're putting these together. So in the other fraction, of 60 goes on the bottom, is 15 goes on top. So 15 divided by 60 equals something over 100. Okay. Now we can do crisscross applesauce. That's probably what I would do. 15 over 100 is 1500 divided by 60. And my little cheat sheet says 25, and that sounds about right. Moving on. You try. Well, okay, let's say you didn't notice that. You try. What percent of 200 is 40? So go ahead and take a look here. Percent x over 100 of 200. 200 goes on the bottom. 40 goes on top. Crisscross applesauce, 4,000 divided by 200 equals 20. And voila. You are AT, so why don't we try this? Haha. What percent of 293,400 is 200? Oof. That tires me out thinking about it. What percent? Well, percent means what over 100, right? Of 293,400 is goes on top, 200 on top. Holy crap. Let's see. 200 times 100. 20,000. That's going to be divided by 293,400. I'm getting somewhere around 0.08 probably. You know, I really ought to keep a calculator next to me. Hold on a second here. Yeah. Calc acquired. Alright. Let's try this again. So 20,000 divided by 293,400. 0.068. Alright, fair enough. At least that's what I got. Moving on. Survive that. Try this. What percent of 50 is 28,900? So, take that, smart people. Figure that out. So go ahead if you want, pause and try. Hopefully you tried. What percent, once again, means x over 100 equals of 50. 50 goes on the bottom. Is goes on top. 28900. Oh boy. Times divide. So 28,900. When you times by 100, just add 2 zeros. So the commas just shift to 2,890,000. So 2,890,000 divided by 50. It's going to be a big number still. I get 57,800. By the way, there's an easier way to do this for those who are so inclined. Let me try it again to show you. X over 100, that's true. Of 50, 50 goes in the bottom. 28,900. Now, did you notice how 100 is twice as much as 50, so this has to be twice as much as this. Times this by 2, 28,000 times 2 is 56,000. And 900 times 2 is 1,800 or 1,800. So 57,800 as well. So you see. Alright, you can change the sentence, but the rules are the same. 4,400 is what percent of 400. Well, excuse me, 440 is what percent of 400. Now, what percent means x over 100? 440 is. Of 400 goes in the bottom. Okay, crisscross applesauce. Looks like you get 110. You try. 88,000, what percent of 4,000? Go ahead and pause and see. Hopefully you pause. Let's see what you got. 88,000 is what percent of 4,000? Well, this and this are actually going to form one fraction. 88,000 of goes on bottom, 4,000. X over 100, crisscross applesauce. Add 2 zeros onto this, so 88,000, 2 more zeros, 0, 0. So now it's 8,800,000 divided by 4,000. Notice how there's 3 zeros here? Cancel, cancel. Divide these by 4 and I get 2200. Hope I'm right. Well, I think I probably am. Alright, next up. Now you try. Now the real you try for AT. 0.0045 is what percent of 4,000? Go ahead. Pause. Okay, let's see what you got. So 0.0045 is what percent of 4,000? We'll put 0045 over 4,000 equals x over 100, because that's what percent. So this times this divided by this. This one I will probably do with my calculator, except I'm going to times this by 100, so I'm going to just move the decimal over 2 places. So 0.45, but that's still divided by 4,000, which means it's going to be real small. So 0.45 divided by 4,000 equals 1.25 to the negative 4th power. Now it looks kind of weird. This is what it looks like on my computer. And if you use a scientific calculator, you might get this as well. Now, if you get this, that's actually a notation for this, times 10 to the negative 4th power. We'll get scientific notation later. Here's all you got to do. You put 1.25 and 4 spaces over, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 0.0001125. Hope that's right. Should be. Now, 40% of what number is 14? We're going to break it down. 40% means 40 over 100. Of what number? Now, we don't know what number, but the of goes in the bottom, so that goes on the bottom like this. Notice how it goes right down here. Is 14, we know is, so is goes on top. Once you figure that out, Criss Cross Applesauce, no different. 14 times 100 divided by 40, bing bang boom, just like that. 14 times 100 divided by 40, which makes 35. 20% of what number is 140? Go ahead and try on your own. Try it. Okay, so 20% of what number is 140? Let's take a look. 20% means 20 over 100. Of what number? We don't know. Goes on the bottom. Is 140? Is goes on top. Criss Cross Applesauce. 140 times 100 divided by 20. I'm going to estimate as 700. Sweet. I was right. How did I know? I'll tell you. 2 goes into 14 7 times. So 20 goes into 140 7 times. Take 100 times 7, 700. You try this. 10% of what number is 1,005? 10% of what number is 154,460? You go ahead and try. Try. Hopefully you pause, and here's your answer. I'll make your life easy. How? Just take this. Alright, so you have this here. 10%, you can just take a decimal and move it one place in. 10% is right there. You have to change this comma, but there you go. 10% of 154,460 is 15,446, although if you wanted to be a purist, 10 over 100 equals, all this is on top, 154,460 times x, so this becomes 1,544,600. Wait a minute. No. Yeah. No. 10% of what number is 154 thing? Yeah, so I'm sorry, yeah. No. No. Wrong roads. Well, I'm glad I actually checked that out. You know what mistake I made? Besides not writing it out the first time? I'll tell you. The mistake I made was this. 10% of what number is 154,460. So in other words, 154,000 is 10% of something. So it's 10% larger. See how I made a quick mistake because I didn't think it through. And if I can make a mistake, so can you. So 10% of 100. Well, I'm glad I actually checked that out, although I'd be pretty embarrassed at my video. This over x. In other words, this is 10% of something. So now I can clearly see this has to be 10 times larger. But let's go ahead and do it anyway. Now that I've messed it up, 154,460 times 100. 154,460 times 100. 2 more zeros. comma, comma, so now I have 15,446,000 divided by the 10, so times divide, times divide. When you divide by 10, just cut a 0 off. So 123, comma, 123, comma, and now I really have 1,544,600. And by the way, you'll notice I didn't edit this mistake that I made. I could have certainly edited the mistake and cut off a certain point, but I don't want to, because I want you to know that I make mistakes too, as you do, and mistakes are part of the learning process. Even for someone 1,000,000 years old like me, it still happens. Moving on. AT, you try. 1,430% of what number is 6,154,460? Ugh, but let's take it one piece at a time. 1,430% means 1,430 over 100. All right. Of what number? So I don't know the bottom. X is 6,154,460. Look, I'm not even going to get cute this time. I'm going to go ahead and use the calculator. So let's see. Crisscross. I'm going to times, then divide. So 6,154,460, 6,154,460 times 100 divided by 1,430. It says 430,381.8182. Well, how do you know if that's correct? In this case, how do you plug it back in? I can take this divided by this and get 1,430 divided by 100 and get 14.3. And I could just take this divided by this. So I will. I'm going to take 6,154,460, which I'll do right here. 6,154,460 divided by this guy right here, this fellow I just found out, which is 430,381.8182, and voila, it says 14.3 as well. So it all works out. Top divided by bottom has to equal top divided by bottom, even if this goes in here. Next page. Let's do another, and we can also look on page 129, example B, if you need, which of course would be right. Page 1, is it 129? So 129, well, I got to check here. It's 128, 129. Ah, here we go. 40 is 8.8% of what number? But again, let me hide the answer there if you haven't seen it already. All you gotta do is put 40 is. Alright, well 40 is on top. Of what number? I don't know, so I'll put X. 0.8%, it's still just 0.8 over 100 because a percent's a number over 100. It don't matter if it's 0.8. Times divide. 100 times 40 is 4,000. 4,000 divided by 0.8. Let me check that here. 4,000 divided by 0.8 is 5,000, which we have there. Finally, of course, the word problem. Whoa! Give that guy a nice mustache there. And maybe some horns. Those horns are pretty weak, but you get the idea. Anyway, jewelers use the carat system to determine the amount of pure gold in jewelry. Pure gold is 24 carat, meaning that the items is 100% gold. A 14 karat gold ring contains 14 parts gold and 10 parts other metal. So that's where they get the idea. What percent of the ring is gold? Round to your answer to the nearest percent. So here's what we have. Remember that the percent was X over 100. Any percent's X over 100, so that doesn't change. So we know that if we want to find a percent of anything is X over 100, so we can get that right out of the way. So right away you can take this here and say what percent. That means X over 100. Now we got to get the players involved. Well, I want to know about a 14 karat ring. 14 karat out of a possible 24, I think you know what to do. Well, part was 14, total was 24. You might want to jot this down for these word problems, as you will see this again. Hint, hint. So we'll try this. X over 100 equals 14 over 24. Because remember, 24 is pure, which is total. 14 is part, which is what you got. Criss Cross Applesauce. 14 times 100 divided by 24. 100 times 14 divided by 24 is 58 and 1/3%, it says, which sounds about right. So you would have 58 and 1/3% of gold. Now, why does that matter? Well, my ring is 14 karat, the ring that my wedding ring that me and my wife have. And other people have 24 karat, but 24 karat's too soft. 24 karat you can bend because gold is very bendable, where other ones, 10 carats or less, are very stiff. They don't bend at all. So usually a lot of people prefer 14 karat for that reason. Also, if you ever had to, and I certainly hope you don't have to, but if you had to pawn a gold ring, you could figure out how much it's worth, because 14 karat out of 24, 58% and 1/3. Now, on the other hand, if you wanted to look here, take a look here. Price of gold currently is hovering right around, well, let me see. Silver's at 34. That's good for me. Oh, I missed gold. It'll come back here in a second. Come on, gold. Where are you at?
So
gold.
The question is,
gold's at 17.59.
gold
Lady, I don't want to hear you right now. Gold's 17.59. So we can take that. You would take 17.59. All right. That's how much gold is an ounce. And so let's say you have your ring here, and we'll just say your ring is an ounce, which would be an awfully big ring, but we'll just say that. You would take 58%, or 0.583, times that, 17.59 times 0.583, and your ring in gold alone would be worth $1,025, although the sentimental value would be worth millions, of course. Anyway, that's the lesson for today. Enjoy that, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye.